everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today guys, I'm going to be talking about a situation that happened probably a few years ago, to be fair. Trying to remember exactly when this was. I did try and research it before I could forget every single detail. But I thought it'd be good to explain to you guys the situation, well, back when it was. So, before I forget the entire thing. So, I'm talking about when I was a part of a debate in Aberdeen University. Now, some people think I was part of university and I studied there. I have never done that. I have never believed in the university because I always thought it was a waste of time, and I always thought it was basically trying to keep that mentality of school to continue on. I wanted to grow up, and then before that time, I grew up and moved city, and, things changed. Probably my view on university is probably going to a lot worse, but this is not the subject of today. I was part of a debate. Now, you'd be thinking, why the fuck was he part of a debate? He can't debate shit. Well, you know what? He did. And he won. So what was the subject I was talking about? Well, we're talking about independence. Scottish independence. Where, I can't remember exactly when this was, but as part of the debating society, one of the oldest ones in Scotland, next to St Andrews anyway, the Aberdeen University has a debating club where they bring a subject to the floor, and just like any debating club, you've seen them in the Oxford University ones, you bring the subject to the table, there'll be two sides, someone to speak on both sides, and then the audience decides who wins. Now, when it came to the one I was at, I just found the invitation on Facebook because at the time, it was actually open to all. Not open to just the university members, it was actually open to the public too. And when the conversation was asked about independence, I asked, could I be a part of it? To see if I could, believe in myself a little bit back then, to see if I could actually form a debate and see how it could go. It was just to help a little bit on my own way, but I always knew I was not going to agree with everything that was going to happen in university, because they're all woke and a little bit stupid sometimes. And it did turn out to be very weird afterwards, but let's not talk about that. What we're talking about is the debate itself. So the subject was independence. Now, as you know, I did vote for the independence referendum and voted for Brexit too, so I know what I voted for national sovereignty twice. Although there's people in their 60s who still think one side was evil and one side was good, although they're both independents. Those people are spazzers. Anyway, so when I asked to join the university's debating table for that day, I actually was able to get in and I was actually able to debate. And the only thing that I had a problem with was the fact that I had to be on the side of pro-independence. And at the time, I really stumbled at the idea of how can I promote the side I've been against for nearly over 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And you're like, oh, fuck, how do you do it? And you know what? When I was doing the debate, it was very odd, right? It was very interesting what I had to consider when I was doing the debate, because there was 3 people on each side. So this is how they did it. It wasn't just one guest speaker who came in. It was 3 people discussing the subject. 3 people were for the pro-UK and 3 were pro-independence. So when it came to what was going on, I got in, everything was fine, and then he said, you're on the side of independence. And my head was going, shit. Because I was like, oh no, how do I figure this out? Because I never supported the subject, and I was on the side who, well, basically I've been against for a long time. So when I came to the table eventually, we all spoke to each other, which was a bit odd. There was 3 normal looking people on that side, and my side had One guy dressed in was it purple or blue hair, long fingernails, and another guy with long hair and a very cocky attitude about debating. And I was like, great, I am so far right compared to this lot. And that was moderate. I was like, okay. So I'm like, let's try to figure out from that time to getting the invite and getting to the debate, which was good. I was thinking, how do I make my conversation, my choices sound good to people? And I thought, I know how to do it. I've been against the other side for such a long time, and I forgot what they had to do. Lie! I became a politician that day and lied about things. I dragged some things up about how the electoral system was designed by the Labour Party. This is probably the only part I said was true, that it was designed to make sure the Labour Party would stay in power. And like I said, my head's really forgetting a lot of this stuff from back then. That's why the video needs to be made now before I completely forget. My views on those things have changed since then, but still need to talk about it because things were interesting when it was talked about. So I talked about like I said, how the electoral system wasn't fair, how the voting system wasn't fair, how some of the things and policies were not fair, things weren't good, and independence could be good for people. It could bring people together. Make sure other people from other lands weren't telling you what to do. And basically, I lied because I was like, all the people who support it basically support the absolute opposite. So I was like, I support independence because I want to be national sovereignty and blah de blah shite my arse. And just spoke shit for another 2-3 minutes. And I was like, is anyone going to catch me out? Is anyone going to call me out? No. No, they did not. And the other side did it as well. They will talk about the benefits of the United Kingdom and how being part of the UK is good and how the trades and barriers and policies and all that kind of stuff and the history, not really a little history, but things were how good they were. And the whole debate went the way it went. Who won? The independence guys won. We won a little bit bigger than the guys who were for the pro UK. And I was like, wow, this is when I'm going to get called out now. Because I'm like, I was quite known if you looked at my socials back then, to be pro UK. And I'm like, why am I making the argument for the opposite? Well, that's what they asked me to do, and I lied. But as if anyone who is going to criticize me has ever lied before. And probably won't need to lie again, because this is where things got interesting. Out of all the things that were getting said, we got feedback from the audience. And there was this one guy I was so taken back on. I was actually really amazed. There was a girl too, and that subject was really not fun to remember at all. I'll talk about the guy first. He talked about, why did none of you mention the guy talked about all the arguments you guys seem to be doing are arguments from political discussions from the last few years, but nothing about the longevity of things. And I was like, shit, he was right. All the arguments presented at the table were quarrels and things from politics of recent days gone by. The Conservatives crashed the economy. The Brexit vote was far-right extremist, and independence was something. There were quarrels about local policy made recently. Nothing about the legacy of the country that we were promising to build or promising to keep on both sides. And I was like, shit, that was really good of him. I don't know what he's doing now, but I thank him for it, because the problem we were all doing at the time is exactly what people are doing now with the entire question. They're not talking about the longevity of the how Scotland is going to be in future compared to its past, like its entire legacy. But it's literally just people getting over their qualms about current political events, like political point scoring. And you're like, it's actually kind of pathetic how the people who, on both sides, should be considering both conversations about Scotland's legacy or Britain's legacy, but they fail to get that next stage of the conversation because we're too busy bicking about now. And I was like, my God. That changed that day. There was there was other subjects too that was talked about. There was a girl. Remember the one I said about the purple hair or blue hair? That he, she, they, whatever they call themselves, was talking about glape. I can't say that word on YouTube. Glape, and it was like saying the rates were so down low. And what kind of horrified me was there was a girl in the debating room which actually had been glaped by another student, and she was absolutely fuming at that person for kind of downplaying the idea of rape. And I was like, oh shit. I was just kind of concerned about myself. Because the person in blue hair kind of downplayed the whole thing, saying, well, it's okay here, that doesn't hardly happen. And you said it to an actual victim of grape crime. Yes, I'm going to leave that subject there because that was really horrifying. It's now on the internet, so there we go. Well, afterwards, went to drinks afterwards, and the weird thing was, I did say I don't actually support independence at all. Like, I don't support this version of it anyway. But I don't support it. And they didn't care. Like, the people who were, like, more personality around them, most of the girls, or manly girls, they were not really caring about what was getting said. What they had an issue was me not understanding what gender was, or me not going along with their gender pronouns. There was even a girl who tried to tell me off, saying because she, as a girl, cannot have kids because her body can't do it, she thinks she is a boy. And I'm like, no, it's not. I said, I would like to have kids. And then she says, oh, why don't you have kids? I'm like, well, because I have a dick. It does not work. I cannot go and magically make a baby for myself. She's like, why not? It's like, I need to do the thing to a female who has the female organs, right? And this is the thing where people say, what is a woman? I'm like, this is how I sold it to her. I think I did anyway. I said to her, you might not have the capability of having kids, but you have the organs to reproduce life. I do not. I carry the egg and the sperm, but you are the one that's able to create life. Because even if your organs aren't working or doing their full 100% job, you can still have kids. Because I remember my friend Agnieszka, for years she was able to have kids. Just would never happen. Just wouldn't happen. Years. We're talking about over 20 years. Not being able to have kids. Then this one time, little baby boy comes out. I think he's around 7 now. Don't ever tell me a girl can't have kids because it's just impossible. Few things happened that day. And it's interesting to remember that. And I remembered I became a politician that day. Good night.